Okay, so let me start here just by saying, who am I? Who is KI8R? And the backstory on this picture in the top right is my son, my middle son, decided he was going to get married on field day weekend,
Uh,
and it just so happened that the local club was doing the field day in the same park that he had rented to get married in. And so my wife and I, after the wedding was over and everybody was gone home, we went down and operated a little bit of park or a little bit of field day before we went home and pretty much collapsed after the wedding. But it was a lot of fun to do that. So we won the uh, best dressed field day operator award there. But at any rate, so who am I? I've been licensed since I was 16. I've been in this hobby for 40, it'll be 45 years in July. And my wife is KA8YCO, and we've been married for 35 years. My wife, incidentally, used to work at Universal Radio. If any of you remember Universal Radio back in the day, she worked there before we got married and for a while after we got married. Um, and I started working at DX Engineering almost 4 years ago, thanks to COVID. I lost my job of 26 years, 8 months, 13 days. Not that I was counting. And so my wife suggested that I look at DX Engineering. And I was like, oh, I don't know. And she kind of encouraged me. So here I am. I started making YouTube videos in 2023, and I enjoy CW, particularly CW contesting, POTA, building antennas, and most recently, I've started doing some things on 10 gigahertz. I have made two QSOs last fall on 10 gigahertz doing rain scatter. And rain scatter basically will allow you to enhance the how far you can bounce us. You basically bounce signals off a thunderstorm. And so I made one QSO that was 100 miles and another QSO that was 150 miles away using half a watt on 10 gigahertz and a little 18-inch dish. So it was a ton of fun, all CW, but it was a good deal of fun. So let's talk about Rig Expert. Rig Expert was founded in 2003, and I'm not even going to pronounce these guys' last names, but basically Victor, Sergey, Dennis, and Nikolai. And for these four guys, and they are a leading manufacturer of antenna analyzers, rig interfaces, and all kinds of different things. And even though there's still a war going on in the Ukraine, they still continue to manufacture and develop new things and keep up with everything. And besides the analyzers, they also make power supplies and software-defined radios, transceiver interfaces, antennas, amplifiers, GPS disciplined oscillators, and even more things than that. So you may ask yourself, why do I need an analyzer? Well, it's an awesome question, and it's a fair question. And I'll start by saying no one wants to run in and out of the house making adjustments. Ask me how I know. I've spent way too many hours running back and forth trying to adjust an antenna. And I set up my antenna farm sits on 3 acres, and my tower is 200 feet behind my house. So there's no way to make that practical. The nice thing about an antenna analyzer is it has its own signal source. And so it's basically a miniature transmitter. And you can find out what your SWR is at the antenna and not have the feed line mask the SWR. So, excuse me for just 1 second. And so, I did an SWR. I did a video on SWR, by the way, and I did show how feedline can mask what SWR actually is. And I would encourage you guys to go to the DX Engineering channel on YouTube and look at that video. It's gotten over 70,000 views and it's done very, very well. But some models can allow you to test your feed line. One of you guys brought up the TDR functionality. So one of those things is will allow you to test that. You can also, if you know what the velocity factor is, you can check the length of your feed line. So if you have a roll of coax and you're not sure how much coax you have on that roll, if you know the velocity factor, you can find out what how much coax is on that by the to the foot, and you can also determine what the velocity factor is if you know what the length of the coax is, and it'll also generate a graph and SWR curve for you as well. So they're basically two different types of analyzers that Rig Expert makes. They make a zoom model and they make a stick model. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to go through the current models that Rig Expert makes, and they've made some changes in the last 6 months. So when I started putting this together and realized that we were doing this in May, I did make some changes to this, but basically these are the current models that they have today. So we're going to start with the AA35 zoom. And you'll find out real quick, 35 means 35 megahertz. And basically all their models, the number is the highest frequency that they will go to. So in this case, goes up to from 0.06 to 35 megahertz, has a 3.2-inch TFT color display. It's 4.1 inches wide at the widest point and 8.1 inches high, 1.25 inches deep. So it's still plenty small that it'll fit well in your hand, and it's just under 7/10 of a pound. Uses a couple of AA batteries, has a waterproof keyboard, and uses a UHF connector. And some of these are UHF and some of these are N connectors, depending on the model you buy. The 55 zoom, again, 55 to 55 megahertz, same display. It's basically the same size, same batteries. And I will note here, excuse me, that the battery life on these things is really, really good. I used to own an MFJ analyzer years ago, and it took something like 9 or 10 AA batteries, and it was a battery pig. And I went through batteries faster than anything. And when I found the Rig Expert, I never went back. So at any rate, moving on, the 650 up to 650 megahertz. This is a little bit different look in that this is more of a professional type of a model. And it's similar in size, just a little bit taller, up to 9 inches high, a couple inches deep, and 1.44 pounds. So it's a little more robust unit. In this case, it has an N connector and uses either 3 AA batteries, or it has the option to use nickel metal hydride batteries. Next model is the 1500. The 1500 is up to 1500 megahertz. A 3.2-inch display again, same size, same form factor as a 650. And one thing this is really good at is making coaxial stubs. So it does have the ability to do that. Some of these other units will as well. And again, the N connector. Same thing with the 2000 model. Again, very similar unit. And the 3000. So you can go up to basically 3 gigahertz with these different units. Of course, just like anything else, the higher you go in frequency, the higher you go in price. And this particular one is pushing $1,000. The next one we're going to look at is the stick models. And some people like the stick models better. And they like them better because they're a little bit smaller. So the stick model, this one is 100 kilohertz up to 200 megahertz. And it has an e-ink display. So if you're familiar with like a Kindle, it's the same kind of display. An e-ink displays basically, when you turn them on, they just stay on and they don't do anything until you change the state of it. So even if the battery's pretty much dead, it still will show that display. This one has a little bit different in that it has a built-in 18650 lithium-ion battery that's good up to about 3 hours. It also uses USB-C. Most of these use USB-B. So that's another nice thing. And so it's nice to see them using USB-C on some of these. And this particular one has a UHF connector on it. Stick 500, again, 500 megahertz. And again, that 18650 battery and USB-C and a UHF connector. And again, that e-ink display. The Stick Pro is a little bit different in that it has a color TFT display and does have the built-in TDR 18650 battery. This one does use an N connector, but it does include an adapter to go to SO239. Take a drink here real quick. Okay, the X Pro. X Pro is up to a gig. And also that lithium battery and USB-C and N connector. So let's talk about some of what the screens look like on these, because the screens are kind of interesting. The screens show what the menu would look like, the SWR chart, and the frequency range. The nice thing about the Zoom models is you can either select the band you want. If you notice on the left-hand side, it says 30 meters, 20 meters, 17 meters with little arrows up and down. So you can select the band you want, or you can enter the frequency, and you can also enter the range. In this case, it's 20 meters, 14 megahertz at 2.5 megahertz span on either side of that. So that's quite a wide range there. Also, it'll show you some of the things like the R, X, and L. Show your SWR, your impedance, all the kinds of different things going on here. An RX chart and a Smith chart. And finally, excuse me, with the Zoom, it also shows the regular, what you'd see like on a regular SWR meter. And one thing that a lot of these will do, not all of them, but a lot of them will do is something called multi-SWR. And this is something that I really like a lot because I have my tower has a TH11 on top of it, which is 20, 17, 15, 12, and 10. And so I can put all 5 of those bands on there for whatever frequency I want, and it will tell me what the SWR is in real time on each band. So that is kind of really nice. The stick screens, again, a little bit different. Either they show the color or the paper white type screen, and again, the menu or the SWR chart here. So let's look at talk about some of the features here. Most of these have Bluetooth capability, and there are apps on both iOS and Android that you can pair your analyzer to. Why would I want to pair my phone to my analyzer? Well, if your analyzer's at the bottom of your tower and you're up at the top of the tower doing some work, you can pull out your phone and look at the analyzer and see where you're at as far as if you're trying to make any changes on your antenna system. All these units come calibrated from the factory, and many of these units will allow you to do a separate calibration or go back and recalibrate the unit if you buy an open short load kit. And those kits are available at DXE. And these are not just antenna analyzers, but many of them, again, will do TDR functions. And the stick models and Zoom both. Again, they're easy on batteries. And the Zoom model will even let you expand it to the display to your PC and also your phone as well. Another thing they'll do is measure SWR, return loss, and cable loss. Smith charts, if you know how to read a Smith chart. I'm not very good at that. And they give you visual display on SWR and SWR curves. These things are really not difficult to learn how to use. They're very intuitive once you spend a little bit of time with them. The firmware is user upgradable, and some of them have something called SWR to air feature. And this is really cool because you can have the ability to put in a frequency on your Rig Expert, and have it in CW send what the SWR is to a handheld, like on 2 meters or something. And this is really handy if you are working on an antenna and you make a change and you want, and it may say that it's the 1.9 to 1. It'll send a 1.9 for 1.9, 2.0 for 2.0, or something similar to that. So that's really kind of a cool feature. And we'll get into that a little bit more. Zoom versus stick. This is always a question we get asked a lot at DXE. The stick is obviously a little bit less expensive and more compact, but the Zoom shows more information on the screen. And so that is a major plus. And again, we talked earlier, the Zoom display can show up to 5 SWR curves at the same time, and most of the models will do that. It also has multifunction keys. The Zoom model does, with up to 2, which most of these keys support 2 or 3 different menu items. Now let's get into the one that I'm kind of really excited about. And I actually did a video on this, and this is on our website, on our website and on our YouTube channel as well. This is called the Rig Expert Match. The Match is a little bit different in that you can upgrade this depending on where you want to start. So let's get into this a little bit. The Match, you basically can buy the base unit. It's a $350 item. And there are 2 levels of licensing that you can purchase, and this is a one-time license. So it's not something you upgrade, not something you buy a year annually. It's a one-time license. And so they have a license class called Advanced and one that's RFE. So the base unit goes from 0.1 to 70 megahertz. Upgrading to the Advanced license gets you up to 230 megahertz plus a few more features. And the RFE opens this thing up to 500 megahertz and gives you every feature out there. And you can buy either the Advanced or the RFE license. And now there is also a path to go from Advanced to RFE as well. Basically, the steps, if you go from basic to Advanced, it's $100. If you go from basic to RFE, it's $200. So the maximum you're going to maybe be out here is $550. It's a lot of antenna analyzer for $550. And most of us don't need to go beyond 500 megahertz anyway, unless you're really into doing stuff up in the microwave portion of the bands. This particular one has a 4-inch TFT display, and this thing is super bright. When I had this here at my shack, I was really not wanting to give it back. And I use an AA230, which has been awesome. And I still really like it a lot. And I don't need this thing, but boy, once I had it in my hand, I really wanted it. And I still may own it before it's all over. Battery life is good, rated at about 2.4 hours to continuous use. It has a 18650 lithium ion battery in it. It's 2600 milliamps. Again, factory calibrated USB-C, 3.7 inches wide, 8.1 inches high, and 1.5 inches deep, and weighs about 12 ounces. So under a pound. It does an awful lot. Plus, it has a 2-year warranty, which is very nice as well. And most of these have a 2-year warranty. And let's talk a little bit more about the Match. And I'm not sure how well you guys can see this chart, but basically, this chart will show all the features that the base model has. The Advanced license opens up, and then the RFE license. And so, for example, if the TDR functionality is important to you, the RFE, you would definitely want to buy that RFE license. If you want to be able to do onboard calibration and set up and it'll allow you to set up profiles for different calibration processes, you want the RFE license. And we can talk about the user calibration for just a minute while I'm here. One thing that is really cool with the user calibration is you can set up the calibration on your antenna from over a piece of feed line. So if you have a 50-foot piece of feed line and you want to measure what your antenna is, you can calibrate your unit based on that 50-foot piece of feed line, save that as a data point, and then select it anytime you want to check your antenna over that piece of feed line. So that is kind of cool. Another thing here is there's just a few more things. Again, the SWR to air feature is an advanced feature. Bluetooth is an advanced feature. So all these different things that you can buy that you're getting extra if you choose to buy an advanced or an RFE license. So let's talk a little bit too about software. And Rig Expert build has this thing called Antscope 2. And some of you guys that have Rig Expert may already have this on your computer. This is a free download. This is not something you pay for, but this is available for either Windows, Mac, or Linux. And I'm a Mac user, so I really appreciate that. And it will allow you to pull up to 1,000 data points per scan. I've used this a number of times when I've been doing stuff with the engineering department, and it's been a real life changer. And so you can create presets in here and select a preset and run that preset anytime you want to on any antenna you might be hooked to at the time. So we wrap this up. Zoom, stick, or match. Zoom obviously has a larger screen. The match obviously has a larger screen. But the stick is more portable. The match is definitely user upgradable, which is a very nice thing. And all of these work with the Antscope software. All of these, I believe all of these work with iOS and Android apps. So the bottom line here is personal preference. And so with that, I'll open this up to questions.
Question on the batteri selection. A lot of the rechargeable batteries, the voltage is a little bit lower than the standard alkaline, which is 1.5.
Correct.
And those rechargeables are typically about 1.2. How sensitive is the Rig Expert to the difference in voltage?
Okay, so you're obviously talking about the ones that come with nickel metal hydride batteries. So the unit is not very sensitive to voltage. I mean, again, these things are real easy on batteries. So whether you use alkaline or whether you use the nickel metal, and so I don't believe that's really an issue at all. Anyone else?
There's a solution for that problem, by the way. You can buy these things from Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
They have 8 AA batteries in there, which are lithium with a converter, and they have exactly 1.5 volt output until they die. Then you put them in the charger and you put the next pair. Awesome. I use them on the Rig Expert.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oops, I didn't mean to do that. I'm so sorry.
Apologies for being late. I just came in at the comparison point there, but interesting. Thank you.
Oops,
Eric was trying to show us something.
Oh, I had my audio muted. What is the plug on the back of this is the Zoom 650, by the way. There's a plug on the back. Is that for the program that you were talking about?
That's a USB-B port. And so it's like a printer cable. If you remember the old USB printers.
Oh, right. Yeah.
B. So if you're using the Antscope software, you would just get an A to B cable, plug it into your computer, and select the unit, and away you go.
And Mike, again, could you comment on how you measure a coax to see if there's any faults in it? And can you do it with an antenna attached if you can't get up high enough to disconnect it?
Okay. So that you bring up a great point. And so I made a comment. My tower is 200 feet behind my house. And I had to do that because I have 2 leach beds. I had to get behind the leach beds. And at the time, my kids had a swing set. My kids are grown and gone, and 2 of them are married now. But so when I put the tower up 10 years ago, that was really my only choice. So I have 4 inches. I have a 4-inch conduit goes between the house and the tower. And it comes up into a metal box on the tower. I use LMR 600 to go between the house and the tower to try to mitigate feed line loss. And so I'm always concerned is, if something happens to that cable, I need to know. If something changes with my SWR, that's a telltale sign that something's happened to my coax. So I'm always checking that. I do use my Rig Expert analyzer. I have, again, the A230. And you basically put the impedance of your feed line in there. And I have done it with the load at the end with the antenna on it. And I actually have an antenna switch at the base of the tower in that box. And I can see the bump where, because I actually have 2 pieces of LMR 600, one of there, and they're joined in the middle. I can see that connector when I do the TDR function, and I can see the coax switch when I get to it, and I can see all the way up the tower. And so it's just a really nice tool to have, because again, coax has a lifespan. And, you want to do a visual inspection on your coax every year. And I would encourage everyone to do that. I had a good friend who last fall, he called me and said, Mike, my SWR is great, but my coax, it's cracking. And I got there, and I wish I had a picture I could show you right now of it. But basically, at the bottom of his tower, his 10-year-old Belden coax was a cracked up mess. The jacket was almost gone, had tons of water ingress. The shield had turned black. And so just because if your SWR gets better, you probably have a problem. And so one thing you'll hear our CEO, Tim, K3LR, say, if your SWR is better, you've got issues and you really need to look at your coax. So, but hopefully that helps you a little bit.
Yeah, what is TDR again?
Time domain reflectometer.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And that's what you use to check the coax, is the TDR screen?
Correct. And there's YouTube videos that can walk you through some of this too. And I would encourage you to watch some of those. It'll really make it a little more plain. I can do.
And that's on DX Engineering's site?
Yes. So, anybody else?
Yes, Mike. Hello from Reykjavik, other end of the world. So I have the Rig Expert, and I'd like to tell you on 1 gig, if the standing wave is perfect, then I have 10 meter or longer RG58, and nothing is coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And I can even use a bad cable as a dummy load, as nothing comes back. I don't make problem with the transmitter, even the cable is rubbish, for there's nothing coming back, for the cable is eating everything.
Right.
It's quite funny you say that, for I'm learning that.
Yeah.
And also you can use a cable as antenna matching with making a T-connector on it, and then this helps a lot. And in my work, this Rig Expert have saved me lots of job to know where the problem is in the coax. I can see that after 3 meter, there I have a cutting, it's open, or is it broken? Or even with a half-inch coax, I can see 50 ohm is changing to 70 ohm, and then back to 50 ohms. It's going back and forward, and it tells me exactly where in the coax it's broken. So I give the Rig Expert 10 points.
Yeah.
I can't be without it. So easy to run, and it works even very cold weather. The display do not freeze.
Right.
That's important for me.
Awesome. Yeah, these guys in Ukraine have just done an awesome job putting this whole thing together, and it's just and doing it in wartime. I can't imagine the stress these guys are under, but they've done an incredible job, and they keep doing it every day.
And well, I am transmitting on 2.4 gig up to satellite, and it is so easy to adjust the standing wave
Mhm.
on 2.4. That's why I have the 3000 type only for 2.4 gig
Mhm.
operation, and it works perfect for me.
Right.
Again, nothing new to say or no question. Just I'm really happy owner of it.
In the video I mentioned earlier that I did on SWR, the one thing I showed was I took 100 feet of RG8X coax, and I showed that I had the end of the coax was open, so there's just a open connector on the other end, and I started looking at different bands, and what should have been an infinite SWR is you go higher in frequency. As I got to 230 megahertz, the SWR actually was down to around 1.5 to 1, and which should be infinite. So your coax can mask SWR, and I don't know that a lot of hymns truly understand that, but it certainly can, and that's why having an antenna analyzer is an awesome thing to have out at your antenna itself when you're making changes or you're putting it up for the first time.
Well, I can also add one thing, exactly what you're saying. Even if you have a terrible antenna, you can have a standing wave 1.1 every time, every wave length. I think it's a quart wave length on
Mhm.
the coax. The standing wave go all the way down, and some companies say you need to have the coax exactly that length so the antenna will work. And well, you are just cheating on a standing wave meter, for you can always get standing wave 1.1 on every meter of the coax, so every 20 meter or 15 or 10 meter. And this meter showed exactly where you have a good standing wave, how long you need to go where the standing wave is good, or 50 ohm or not. And yeah, one thing you forgot, it can change to 75 ohm
Mhm.
output.
Absolutely. You're
So
correct. Thank you for bringing that up. Anybody else?
Well, just I want to thank you very much, Mike, and
Absolutely.
taking the time to tell us all about it. And we'll probably look in some of the other videos that you have. Talking about the videos at DX Engineering, we just go to the DX Engineering website, and then how do we find the videos?
Okay, so the easiest way is to go to YouTube and
Oh, YouTube.
for DX Engineering, and then just you can find the videos there.
Okay.
And I try to get 2 to 3 videos up every month, and I've got 2 that I'm working on right now that I need some decent weather to go out and shoot some B-roll, and hopefully the sun's going to be back out tomorrow, so I can get that done. So I'm really excited to wrap up one just prior to Dayton. So that's my goal.
Perfect. Anybody else have any questions?
I just wanted to ask Michael what kind of antennas you've experimented with or designed or whatever.
Well, I haven't designed, but I did.
Oh.
We spent a lot of time working on balance, and one of the things that we've been playing with are either dipole antennas or infed antennas. And I have not really done a whole lot with infed prior to that, but we spent a lot of time with 49-to-1 balance and 9-to-1 balance building infeds. And so it was been an interesting experience. When you have some aluminum up in the air and you compare that to the wire, I mean, there's a big difference, but it was a lot of fun. One thing I learned is infed antennas are inherently noisy. And I know a lot of hams use them, and I really honestly recommend them, especially for guys that are new in the hobby. Or if you're just in a situation where you can put up one piece of wire and that's all you can get on the air with. But they're noisier typically than than an average dipole. And so, but it was an interesting endeavor to just kind of walk through all that and work through that. But we've got some stuff coming out here at Dayton that we've just announced or about to announce, especially for POTA. POTA's real emphasis this year, because that, I'm sure you guys well know POTA is a big deal right now. So so we've got some really cool stuff coming for that.
Yeah, Michael, I have two of the DX Engineering's the 300 ohm ladder line antennas. I've got two of them up. One is straight 135 feet, and the other one, oh no, I think I shortened it just a little, and a one-to-one bell, and one is an inverted V, and I have them 90 degrees apart. Those things work fairly well, though sometimes the SWR is a little high on some of the bands, and some tuners have a little difficulty with it.
Yeah.
But they work.
And that's all that matters, is you get on the air and you're heard.
And I wondered if you had any comments on using 300 versus 450 ohm ladder line for that type of multi-band antenna.
Honestly, I haven't done a lot with leads, so I'm probably not the best person.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Thanks for your time, Mike. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, guys.
Thank you, Mike.
I'm going to bow out, guys, and I hope that you guys have a great day. And I
Thank you.
appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with you today.
Now you're making me wonder what I'm supposed to do with my Comet analyzer, what that holds those 18 batteries that Neil was talking about.
The MFJs.
Yeah, it's very similar.
Take it fishing with you and use it as a weight.
A boat anchor. There you go, Bob.
Yeah. Now the Comet's a good analyzer. I'm not, don't hear anything I'm not saying here. I'm not dissing it, but it's, I'm just a real fan of the Rig Expert.
Well, the MFJ is lacking a lot of the features that you have spoken about this morning, or this evening, I mean.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that much stuff can be put in that small a package.
Yeah. And and with a firmware update, you can get more stuff. So that's the really cool thing here.
Well, that's
Michael,
when you use DSP,
there was some conversation I heard on one of the reflectors, in which 90% of it you can probably discount, but that they were manufacturing because of the war situation in Canada. Is that correct?
No, I don't believe that's correct. No.
Okay. I didn't think so.
I heard that they had moved to Poland at the start of the war.
No, they're
still in Ukraine.
They're still in Kiev. As a matter of fact, there was pictures online that their offices and their production facility are two separate spaces in Kiev. Their office actually got bombed.
Oh.
So, but they just transferred over to their production facility, so they're still going strong.
Wow. That's amazing.
Hopefully this is about over. We'll see.
Mike, how is DX Engineering dealing with the tariffs, or are you?
Well, fortunately, right now, the only thing really getting tariffed is anything coming out of Asia. And so, and when I say Asia, I mean China. And so there are things that have gone up to 140%, I believe. And so it is what it is. And there's, hopefully, things will go back to normal soon. But for now, all we can do is just pass it on. And so some items that were, I sold an antenna to someone a couple of days ago that comes out of China that I really like. It's made by a company called Chelegans. It's the MC750.
Oh, yeah.
And I sold, that antenna was $250, and now it was $375.
Whoa.
So,
What about the stuff coming from Japan? Is there much of a tariff on that?
No, there hasn't been any tariffs on anything coming out of Japan yet.
Really? Okay.
Good. No, which is a good thing, because people are really excited now about this new Yaesu. So we'll see how that plays out when it comes.
Do you have any insight into when the 101 will be replaced?
I doubt it'll be replaced anytime soon. typically a cycle on a radio, and there's exceptions like the 991, which has been around since 2005. But the typical product life cycle on a radio is around 10 years. And so I would look for like the 7300, and this is I'm taking my DX engineering hat off right now and putting my KI8R hat on right now. But it wouldn't surprise me if you see something to replace the 7300 comes along soon, because it's right at 10 years old now. And I'm really curious to see if this FTX1 replaces the 991, because it will do everything except satellite. And so curious to see where that goes. But
Mike, what about we a lot of us started with the 101s, whether it was the MP or whatever it is, and a lot of us still have them. What about the replacement for the 101? Because that's,
at this point, I don't know of anybody replacing anything. Here's the thing. We don't get any inside baseball from anybody. These guys are as tight. I like to say these guys are as tight-lipped as Apple.
Yeah.
On everything. And so if you pay any attention to Apple and what comes out of Apple, they won't say anything until it's out. So we actually find out pretty much the same day as you do on a lot of this stuff. There's a lot of times where we'll get phone calls about something that's been announced on Facebook or whatever, and we haven't even gotten an email yet from the manufacturer. That's happened a number of times. So it is what it is.
It seems to me that if somebody operates HF only, the 35 zoom would probably be the most practical unit to have.
I would agree.
Which one, Neil?
35.
What I said is, if someone only operates HF, they don't get into VHF or anything else. That the zoom, the AA35 zoom, would probably be the most practical unit to own.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would agree with that.
The difference in price between that and the one that goes to 55 megahertz, so you get 6 meters.
Yeah, that's VHF. That's not HF.
Yeah, but a lot of HF radios nowadays include 6 meters.
I understand, but
So
I was specific and I said HF, even though my 101 does have 6 meters, I don't have a 6-meter antenna.
make one. They're short.
Yeah, I pull pretty quick.
One feature they need to incorporate is an Eric filter.
A joke, you know.
The joke.
I will say this about 6 meters. I was fortunate enough a few years ago to work Europe on 6 on CW a couple of times.
Oh,
And that was I have 5 elements on 6 meters at 70 feet. And despite the feed line loss, because it's about 270 feet away, I was still able to work them and hear them, and it was a lot of fun. And they were in the noise, but I still was able to pull them out.
Which amplifier do you use?
I have an ACOM 2100.
I think I still have an aversion to 6 meters, because the last time I worked 6 meters was probably 60 years ago, and it was 6 meter AM, and my neighbors hated me.
Oh, well, there's no TV on channel 2 anymore, so
Yeah.
you can
Well,
see
with 6 meters, 6 meters is a very strange band. You have conditions for like 15 minutes, 20 minutes,
right.
and it's over. I mean, I have FT8 running on 6 meter, and I just saw 20 minutes ago Brazil was on 6 meter. I mean, so and that was a halo antenna. I don't have a big antenna, but workable signal. So
Yeah.
it happens for a short amount of time, and if you're not there, you lost it, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And occasionally, if you get a good aurora opening, we had a really nice aurora opening late last fall.
Yep.
If you have a beam on 6 meters and you point it north, you can work a ton of guys in a hurry on 6 meters for aurora. That's cool. So, guys, I'm going to say good afternoon. Thank you again so much for the opportunity. Appreciate it. And if you guys
Thank you,
have
Michael.
questions, please feel free to call. We have 2 mics at DX Engineering. I go by Michael, so you can ask for me. And I'll
Thank
be
you
glad-
again.
Thank you, Michael.
All righty, guys. Have a great day.
I guess we'll go back to our regular programming.
All right.
After these messages, right?
Yes, right, after these messages.
Hey, Brazil is still on 6 meters. Just came back here.